Hello everyone, welcome back to YouTuber merchandise review. And I know what you guys are going to be saying, oh, it's another Odd Ones Out video. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, this was supposed to be in the, oh my gosh, it's another Odd Ones Out review or something like that video a while back. But the thing I wanted to review and talk about did not show up. So yeah, that was the problem. So today, I'm going to talk about the Odd Ones Out Season 2 and the thing I ordered. So if you guys want to see what that thing is and figure out why the hell the title says, like, oh, face reveal or something like that, just skip ahead. I'd say about, like, a good... I could not tell you. Maybe I'll chuck up, like, a time that you guys can skip to on screen. But today, we're going to be talking about how I attempted to watch Season 2 of Oddballs. Yeah, I attempted. I couldn't get through it. So, if you guys remember, I also did a solo video about Oddballs. That blew up, got copyright claimed, and then I released the copyright on it. So, you know, if I was actually making money, that'd be a pretty big deal, but I'm not. So, you know, it is what it is. But, as you guys may remember from that video, if you've seen it, which there's a ton of viewers, maybe you've seen it, I did not like the show. Legitimately, I did not, because it suffers from the same syndrome that you could say is wrong with the Guava Juice show, with the Miranda Singh show, whatever the fuck, I can't remember the name. And even like the Smosh movie. It's essentially, oh, famous YouTuber, let's chuck their name on this. And, you know, it'll get hits based off of the name. And, you know, I mean, that's literally what influence culture is. You know, you buy it or you go see it just because there's a YouTuber in it. You know? Which I guess makes enough advertisement sense. But the Odd Ones Out show is different, because usually when a YouTuber is advertising something, there's at least substance, you know? If I go and buy a bottle of Prime, even though I don't love it, at least it's a drink. Or if I watch the Smosh movie, it's full of dumb jokes that are at least pointed towards a somewhat adult audience. So if you were a fan of Smosh, then you would enjoy that. But, the Odd Ones Out show is not that. It's mindless and boring, which I did not think those two could really work together. And they work together, but it's not good working together. It's like it's like, let's say there's like a partner project, which we'll get into partner stuff later. And you had two people who were fueled off of ADHD and caffeine, and the other one was just really boring and tired all the time. And they made a project to where you think the skills of these two people might work, but they don't. So I'm just going to go over like the 4 or 5 episodes I watched. I don't remember any of these, so I'm reading off both the Netflix name and the Netflix description and trying to see if I can remember anything. So the first episode, The Show Mustn't Go On. James creates a fake musical about rapping Benjamin Franklin to prove that people will like anything with the right hype. Now, I don't know if that's meta commentary for the show itself. If it is, you know, more power to them, I guess. That still doesn't make the show good. It just means you're calling out your own bullshit. But my main question with the people writing the show, if it is James writing the show, or if it is like someone that enjoys animation, wants to make a good show, why do you make the main character so unlikable? There are shows where the main characters are pieces of shit, but at least the show is funny because it calls out there's pieces of shit. I think a great example that people constantly bring up is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that show, where these white trash people that are who are, you know, hilariously mean and crude and stuff are obviously called out because they are within a world that is perfectly normal to ours, you know? And the comedy comes from how people react to that, or merely seeing that in a realistic world example. You know, it's a live action show. It takes place in fucking Philadelphia, I'm pretty sure. But in this show, it's put in a cartoon world filled with random cartoon characters and stuff, where everyone's doing these actions. So that's normal. But also, it's really fucking boring. You want to know shows like, I think Wayside, I don't know if anyone remembers the show, it was about like some weird school where instead of 100 classrooms built on its side, it was 100 classrooms built up, so it's a sky turret. It's a weird show. But the reason why it works is there is something called the straight man, or the normal in an absurd world. I think that's like, I can't think of the exact name of the writing concept at this point. But it's essentially you take someone who's just like us, you know, an audience surrogate, and they chuck them into that world. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The Mortal Kombat movie, the recent one, that really didn't work because that's a whole different thing. But an audience surrogate is a safe way of doing it, where you can get some actual genuine laughs out of it because it's someone noticing the weird stuff and calling out said weird stuff. And that's why it genuinely works. And hell, even movies and shows where that normal person then becomes weird with the weirdness of the world, that works, like in Young Frankenstein. But that's because, you know, we see the general progression of the character, and us as an audience member genuinely progresses with that character. We want to see where it goes. This show just starts out weird and continues to be weird. And I don't really like that. That's more of a tangent about the show, but the episode itself, just James is unlikable as fuck. And that's it. How am I supposed to like a show where everyone's a massive piece of shit and they get away with being said massive piece of shit? And you say, oh, there's shows like South Park. Yeah, but fucking South Park people call out that shit, and they usually at the end of the episode get, you know, punished for that thing, punished for that action. You know, it's a classic setup. But in this one, I'm pretty sure like James gets really pissed off because, like, I don't know, there's like hipster stereotypes that are critiquing it, which I guess is a critique of people critiquing things, but it doesn't fucking work. Yeah, this episode's just really fucking weird and boring to me, man. It gives me migraine to try to think about the plot, because these aren't like normal 10-minute episodes that you'd see in cartoons, like on Cartoon Network and all that stuff. These are like 16, 17 minutes. Around that, because they have like 2 to 3 minutes for the credits and all that stuff. But they just have to stretch it out for some fucking reason for additional 5 minutes. I know 5 minutes might not seem like a lot, but like when you're trying to make very quick episodic sort of stuff where it's basically randomness, you trying to stretch that out longer does not make it funnier. It just makes it more annoying. Makes it funnier. Yeah. Makes it more funnier. No. Makes it funnier. Yeah. The second episode, Partners, I also barely remember this one. Mr. McFly promises the class pizza if they can take care of a flower baby for the day. But James struggles to cope when Max bails on him for a new partner. Now, from what I remember from this episode, there's some funny bits every now and then. Because it's sort of a joke about, like, you know, it's like the classic, just like, one supposed to, like, they're both supposed to be parents and like get divorced, and I think I cannot fucking remember, and I watched this like a week ago with my nephew, and I was like actively trying to watch the episode. But yeah, this is sort of the classic, you know, two characters tries to raise something in class, I guess. But I'm pretty sure it all takes place in the classroom. Like, I don't think they bring them home. They might have brought them home. So it's like, oh, watch this sack of flour for a little bit. Which, I don't know if y'all have done this in high school. I had to do this with a fake baby for like a child development class. You have to take care of that thing for a fucking week. Like, and it screams. It's a screaming baby. It's a robotic screaming baby that if you don't feed it, or, you know, if it fucking, at random times in the night, it'll fucking go off. You know, you gotta take care of it and shit. And that doesn't really happen in this episode. And it's just really fucking boring. And there's shows where they've done this concept to some degrees of success. I mean, the egg one, that, I don't know why, but they always like going more with eggs than the flower babies. I don't know, I think they stopped doing that, so it became less of a recognizable thing that's relatable. I haven't heard anyone doing the flower baby thing in a while. The egg thing I've definitely heard of people doing. Hell, there was even a fucking... Once again, there was a fucking episode of South Park where Jefferson, Miss Jefferson, I think that's when they were going by she, was really homophobic, so she wanted to prove that a gay couple couldn't raise a child through the metaphor of Kyle and Stan being the gay couple raising the egg. I believe that's what it was. And they had like another one where it was like, I can't remember who it was. It was two females raising the egg, and it was once again a homophobic thing. To the point where pretty sure she hires an assassin to shoot Kyle and Stan's egg. I remember. And that one made me lose my shit because it's a subversion of the trope. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the teacher wants you to succeed at this assignments, but it's the students infighting that causes it to happen. And no, it's the teacher wanting them to fail. Which, I don't know. Mr. McFly is such a weird character in the show because at some points he's just a mentally disturbed teacher. Other points he is a person who's dead set on being the best teacher. And other points he's just weird. So they could have done it where he actively does not want them to have a pizza party. And I think it's sort of like that, where they're just like, oh, you making sure the flower baby's okay? And then at some point it gets like a rip and tear and stuff. And it's like, you sure, James, that the flower baby's okay? But no, maybe it would have been funny if he had like actively tried to prevent them from doing a pizza party, because then that could have added to the joke of just like, oh, he's a teacher, he doesn't get paid much, you know. I feel like that could have been a solid way to do it. But yeah, I'm slowly like losing brain cells trying to analyze the show. Okay, next episode I watched, episode 3, School Poolers. Tired of taking the bus, James starts driving kids to school in Dumpy, a golf cart he found in the dumpster. Too bad carpooling gets old quickly. Now here's a question I have that no one's been able to answer. How old is the character of James supposed to be? Because if we look at his videos on YouTube, which I'm assuming if you have seen the videos on YouTube, or if you know the show, you know the creator, he talks about like college and adult living and all that stuff. And though like a lot of his audience is kid stuff, like a lot of his audience is primarily kids, you know, animation stuff. I'm not saying animation's exclusively for kids. Obviously, I'm talking about South Park and stuff. But on YouTube, it's a weird sort of algorithm that's in its own tangent. How old is he supposed to fucking be? Because at some points, they say it's a high school, but then there's a kindergarten attached to the high school. And then he says, like, very childish things. Childish perception on the world. And he has that immature sort of mentality. So you could say, oh, he's, like, in elementary and shit. But in this episode, one of the characters who's in class with them is driving a car. And I'm pretty sure, and this is probably reading too much into a cartoon, you still need a driver's license to drive around a golf cart on streets, because I'm pretty sure a golf cart isn't even street legal. That's getting a whole different thing. But how old is this person supposed to be? It just doesn't make sense. Also, I don't know shit about this fucking episode. I don't remember it. I don't even think I finished it. So yeah, that one's just, it gives me a headache. Episode 4, Body Swap. When Stuart schedules a fight for 3 p.m., James braces for the worst and uses Echo's body swap technology to try and gain the upper hand. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Echo. I don't even know if I mentioned her in the previous review. She's a nothing character who's a cynical asshole. And sometimes the cynical character can work. It can work. Because sometimes will people call out like, oh, that you're being a dick, or oh, you're being mean and stuff. And then sometimes there's cynical people that we root for. Like Velma, not from the show Velma, from Mystery Incorporated, the really good Scooby-Doo show. She's cynical at times, but it's obvious that the people that she's being cynical to are fucking dumbasses. And she's not being mean, she's being witty. Being witty. There's a little bit of meanness, but she's mostly witty. And then, you know, she does other things besides being a cynical asshole, but the fucking character's a cynical asshole. Yeah, in this fucking episode, I remember the whole entire thing with the... I spoiled the fucking episode, spoiler alert. Stuart, who is the green guy, who was in the previous episode driving a car. So this person most likely has the, like, license or some shit. Or just knows how to drive a car, which if you're very young, you know how to drive a car. You know, I'm impressed, but also, what the fuck? He schedules the fight after James says something about him chewing very loudly in class and making fun of the teacher for being a cowboy, which that's a whole thing. He wants to schedule the fight not to fight James, but for James to help him in a fight because he decided not to pay Girl Scouts for their Girl Scout cookies and essentially stole all their Girl Scout cookies. So they have to fight children who are presumably younger than them. So what's the timeline here? Just something. Fucking shit. And then there's a whole bit where James doesn't want to... He thinks it's a fight between him and Stuart. So he asks Max the alligator or the crocodile. I can't remember. I think he's an alligator. Which, by the way, he has some of the best funny bits in the show. He makes the show a little bit tolerable, but not at all. So he swaps bodies with the alligator man, Max, and then the alligator wants to figure out what. No, no, no. What the? No, he doesn't switch with odd ones. Max switches with Echo, and then Echo, because for some reason, fucking James calls him a dumbass and stuff, or doesn't think he's brave enough, so he wants Echo's mind in Max's body because Max is strong and Echo is smart. So then Max goes off and wants to go get a haircut, and then Echo just decides to completely ignore what James is doing and then goes about eating everything possible. So then Max and Echo's body swaps with Mr. McFly, who then, even though he's supposed to be a fucking adult, which I know it's like, craziness and stuff. But once again, if there was one character calling out the stuff, that could work. But James is the one contributing to the stuff, so it really doesn't work. Mr. McFly goes to return a cowboy hat because he's ashamed that he would have to return the cowboy hat or go back in shame to return it. And then he likes how he looks in Echo's body with the cowboy hat on and wants to stay in Echo's body. And then there's like a whole fucking thing. And then the Girl Scout thing happens that I mentioned before. And then, fuck, I don't know. I think there's like a joke at the end where someone switches bodies. I don't fucking know. I'm getting a migraine while trying to talk about this. And then the last one I watched, the class act. While sneaking into the teacher's lounge to snatch sweet treats, James is mistaken for a substitute teacher and faces the wrath of a competitive Mr. McFly. So, I could not finish this fucking episode. I got halfway through it, and then I know Joke had to stop watching because it gave me such a bad migraine that I had to go lay down and take some fucking Advil. That's not even a joke because, fucking Christ. So, Echo sneaks James unhealthy food because there's a gym teacher who doesn't want kids eating unhealthy food, but she's a hypocrite because she eats it. So then James sneaks into the teacher's lounge, and then there's a bit where the chalky milk, like 3x chalky milk, or triple chalky milk, I'm fucking 19, and I'm trying to describe a kid's show. You ever just think about that sometimes? Okay. So then he gets a milk mustache, and I forgot to mention this in the prior episode, in Body Swap, there is a joke where the announcer, who is actually the principal, he is a speaker. The speaker is the principal. I'm not talking like a public speaker. The physical speaker is the principal. And then in the Body Swap episode, there's a constant joke, or they try to make a joke, where he's just like, okay, randomly, I'm going to start counting down to 3 p.m. Which, that's a fucking Simpsons reference. Me saying that, not the fucking episode. So then he like starts randomly counting down. It's just like, it's 100 and so minutes till 3 p.m. And that could have been funny, but then for some reason they changed it to 4 p.m., which was very unnecessary to change it. So the announcer keeps on doing that joke, and then while James is trying to handle the Echo Mr. McFly situation, which just sounds fucking schizophrenic to try to explain this, the fucking announcer is just like, oh, 2 hours until, and then 10 minutes. You could have done a funnier joke. They did a rule of threes joke. They were attempting a rule of threes. I think they did the fucking rule of threes, which rule of threes, just like you do it after the third time, it's not funny. Or if you try it again after the third time, it doesn't work. They could have done a bit where they set it up at the beginning, and it's a extravagant amount of minutes where, the characters have to do the math, just like, oh, how many hours is that? Oh, 3 hours. And then the joke comes from, them not knowing how many minutes. That could have been something. They could have done a second one where it's like, oh, we got an hour, or, we got 2 hours, and then the bits where it's just a bunch of seconds or something like that. It's a recurring bit. And then for the third one, they could have done something just like, oh, now it's 10 minutes. And then one character could have pointed out, wait, you said 2 hours 2 minutes ago. Why is it now 10 minutes? And they just said, don't worry about it. Or something like that. That could have been a joke. But no, it happens in the span of like 5 seconds. They do joke 2 and then joke 3 in the span of 5 seconds. And that is incredibly dumb because no one points it out. I get it's supposed to be absurd. But if you're doing these jokes back to back, you could have timed them out more, especially because it's once again 16 to 17 minutes or 15 to 17 minutes. If you're stretching out the episode, you could have stretched out the joke just a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's just ramming through it. And it does not work. But anyway, back to the class act episode. The fucking announcer, speaker, principal thing thinks James is a substitute teacher, which Mr. McFly fucking hates that there's a new substitute teacher. And I think he's afraid that he's going to get replaced as like #1 teacher or something like that, or teacher of the month, which I don't think substitute teachers get teachers of the month. I don't think that's a thing. I think they're just trying to struggle to deal with their life. Nothing against substitute teachers. I would never want to be a substitute teacher solely because I would like to have my own classroom. If I was a teacher, I want my own classroom. I don't want to be constantly going into people's classroom dealing with whole different groups of kids, because kids are assholes. I've learned that through elementary to high school. Kids are assholes. Anyway, I did not finish this episode. I got incredibly bored and a migraine at the same time. So, what's my opinion on the show? I just don't get it, man. Why wasn't this like an internet thing? Why was it Netflix? I don't get that. They could have made a little internet series, maybe teamed up with YouTube Red, because he is a big deal. He's a big animation juggernaut. Whenever he makes an animation, it usually comes out trending or whatever. He could have just done an online thing. You know? Do that. But no, it's on Netflix. It's just another fucking boring as fuck, wasted opportunity on Netflix. Fucking 3 out of 10. There are some good bits. Max is like the best character. Max the alligator. Because there's some seriously funny bits where it's nonsensical humor, but it's coming out of a talking alligator, which works. Like I said, if they made James a person who calls out the weirdness, and the whole entire thing is, he's an oddball, maybe it's a joke where, he's the odd ones out, but usually he's the person who calls out things or notices weird things in situations. They could have done it where he was jokingly the oddball, even though he was the most normal character, and he just called out things being weird. And I feel like legitimately that would have been kind of that would allow you for a lot of things. Like at one point they could have recognized, hey, our teacher is kind of insane, right? And then there could be a whole thing about that. But no, it's sort of just the wasted opportunity. I don't need every kid show, or every show in general to be purely like comedy gold. But it does make you wish. Like there's a show called Chowder. Chowder is fucking amazing because it's nonsensical humor, but it goes all the way, where it has like great segments and all that stuff, amazing art, seriously fucking amazing jokes and comedic timing. And it's like, if they push this a little bit farther, if they push Oddballs just a little bit farther, they could have really ended up in some nonsensical shit. You know what I mean? Also, what is up with these fucking shows with constantly being like elementary or high school shit, but them not being related to elementary or high school? They could have made the show about him working at a sandwich shop. That would have been, it's even more meta because it's even more fucking, and then they could have done things referencing the animation. Anyway, this was an extremely long bit, but let's get into the main thing I wanted to talk about, which was the closest thing we're going to get to a face reveal on this channel till we hit 1,000, which if you want to help me hit 1,000, link down below, sub and all that stuff. It's this picture. So the story behind this picture, which by the way, I was drawn as an oddball or whatever the fuck he wants to call it. And I spent about $25 to $30. I cannot remember the exact one. So on his shop, which I've been to his shop a lot, you can basically commission, I think, either a team of his artists or one of his artists to draw you as an oddling. Now, I'm assuming that this background is the same for everyone because they had 3 preset backgrounds. I don't think you got to make a custom background. But I'm assuming they also just have the same template and same position, or they have multiple templates for different positions, and then they just draw over it. Which, you know, I don't have a problem with this. And for this coming from an official YouTuber, and, you know, I got it within a timely amount, I'd say. I think there was one major delay for about a month. But I really did not mind it because it was sort of out of my mind at that point. It was just like, oh, okay, so that's out there, I guess. But looking at it, I don't hate it. It's fine. It's fine. It's completely fine. I would have wished. I would have wished there was a bit more of substance to it, but you know, it's a good drawing. I like it. They fucked up a few things. I can't tell if that's supposed to be oranges on there, but I'm pretty sure the shirt I sent them was dark blue with lemons. It was lemons on there. Oh, and by the way, I do have really curly hair, so they got that right. I sent them a mirror selfie. You know, like you take a picture of yourself in the mirror and all that stuff. And I did not have my glasses on because they got slapped into the ocean. But, I mean, for the amount I paid for, and they not only sent this version, they sent, I believe it was a PNG without the background. They sent solely the background, and then they sent one that you can use as a wallpaper on your phone. So that's good. But, yeah. In my conclusion, the show is shit. This was cool. This I will give a 7 out of 10. The show is a 3 out of 10. This is the last Odd Ones Out video I will hopefully ever do. I don't hate the creator. It's just capitalism. That's the best way I can describe it. The oversaturation. It's like it's like superhero movies, man. There's too much shitty stuff on Netflix, and this just keeps popping up in my feed. So yeah, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for watching the previous upload. Hopefully, if not, you know, go check it out. Y'all have a good day, good night, good midnight, good midnight. I'll see you on the next one. Make sure not to die. Bye bye.